Hello, my name's Jane Lehay. I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia in 2014, and following a successful stem cell transplant in 2016, I joined the AML Trials Working Group as a patient representative. I was a patient myself on the AML 17 trial, and I'm now patient representative on a number of clinical trials looking into the treatment of AML. AML 18, AML 19, a trial called Ovation, which will be a new trial to compare oral versus intravenous arsenic trioxide in newly diagnosed APL patients, APL being a subtype of AML. The trial aims to show that taking oral arsenic trioxide can be just as effective as taking it intravenously. And another trial called Victor, which is comparing venetoclax as an effective treatment for AML patients with an NPM1 mutation against the current standard treatment using high-dose chemotherapy. The trial aims to demonstrate that venetoclax can be just as successful in treating AML and can reduce the number of unpleasant side effects experienced by patients and also improve their quality of life. I wanted to focus on Victor today because it's the first trial that I was involved in from the outset. I have first-hand experience myself of the toxicity of intensive chemotherapy treatments used to treat AML, and I was really excited to hear about a trial that could offer alternative treatment, providing a cure without the terrible and often long-term side effects of high-dose chemotherapy. I also know that a lot of AML patients are older and more frail and often not able to tolerate the current high-dose toxic chemotherapy, and therefore palliative care can often be the only option. At the moment, the trial is open to patients who are 65 and older, but it's hoped that the age range will be widened over time. I just think it's a great initiative, and wouldn't it be fantastic if eventually venetoclax could become the standard treatment for AML patients with the NPM1 mutation. As I say, this is the first trial I was involved in from the outset, so the trials team took great care in explaining the protocol to me in detail. They did also attempt to explain the statistical analysis used to determine the number of patients that needed to be recruited. And whilst I'm not entirely sure I followed everything, I did know enough to realize that they had worked out the optimum number of patients to be able to draw a definitive conclusion from the trial. I had a hand in the wording of the trial protocol documentation, and more particularly with the patient-facing literature. One of the things I'm proud of is that the trial document now includes a paragraph explaining that this trial builds on 30 years of research into the treatment of AML. This is insight which the trials team probably took for granted, having lived and worked in the field for many years. It's something I felt it was important and valuable information for prospective patients to be reassured to hear. My experience of being treated for AML was horrific, and I feel I'm now able to do something positive to ensure that future patients do not need to endure the same grueling treatment that I did. Already since my own diagnosis, new treatments have become available, and there are a lot more options available to patients and their treating teams, which are more targeted, offering better chance of long-term survival and less damaging side effects. I feel incredibly privileged to be able to play a tiny part in the development of better treatments, and also to see the advances that are being made. My own recruitment into the clinical trials program was slightly unconventional, and I found myself thrown in at the deep end somewhat. For quite some time, I felt a little bit intimidated and quite lost when attending meetings. I didn't understand a lot of what was being said, and I certainly didn't understand all the jargon. However, over time, I gained my confidence. I started to understand a bit more, and that's really down to the trials team taking time to explain things to me in layman's terms. I've also learnt that I don't need to understand all the medical jargon to be able to participate. My role really is to provide the patient perspective, and in that capacity, I'm the best expert in the room. My advice to researchers would be to involve patients and the public as early as possible, talk to them in plain terms about what you're trying to achieve, and also think about the appropriate level of engagement required to meet your objectives at different stages in the trial, whether it be panel discussions, questionnaires, or one-to-one conversations. In clinical trials, I can only represent my own experience of AML, which will differ vastly from other AML patients. I don't try and pretend to represent all AML patients. So speaking to a wide range of people will help you gain a much broader understanding of the patient experience. And then you can work with individuals such as myself to help you develop specific trial protocols and documentation. Thanks.